Hello, it's Monday of week 12. I've had my first haircut in the current lockdown situation. I'm very grateful to my wife for the job that she did there. I have to say thank you because I suspect that she's going to have to do this again soon. This is just a very quick message. It's Monday of week 12 and I just wanted to give you an update on where we stand with only 4 working days of the semester remaining. In the past week you'll have received a number of emails about assessments. I just wanted to clarify what we do know and what we don't know at present. So first, for September start students there will be no exams in May or June. For January start students, we're expecting all of semester 2 to be taught online with alternative assessments instead of final exams. So in most modules, instead of exams, you'll have an alternative final assessment. This may take the form of an essay assignment, so like one extra essay on a subject that you haven't previously written about, or it could be what we'll call a take-home test or an open book test. That is released to you with 48 hours for completion. I have to stress here that 48 hours is not the amount of time we expect you to take on the task. We don't want you kind of not eating or sleeping for 48 hours as you try to complete it. We expect you to take around 2 to 3 hours completing these kind of tests, just as you would if you were doing an exam. The 48 window has been decided upon to allow for any technological problems that may arise and for the fact that you're all now in different time zones. I do strongly recommend though that when you do tests with a 24-hour or 48-hour window, you try not to leave them until the final 2 hours or 3 hours of that period. Try to get them done at a time that's comfortable for you in your time zone, but don't leave it right until the final deadline for submission. I remember a conversation with a student not too long ago where I spoke about the possibility of putting tests online. And I loved his response, which was, no, you can't do that. We will cheat. And I think I said to him at the time that actually, like, cheating is our problem. We need to design our tests and maybe alter them to make cheating not impossible, but something that won't help you. And I can assure you that cheating never helps you. So a recent experience in the management test, what we saw is in the management test that 30% of the marks available were for short answers to questions, which are typically, you can be right or wrong, but 70% of the marks were available for an essay question. It does look like quite a lot of students copied and pasted their answers in the 30% section and probably spent too much time doing that, as those same students then didn't write very much in the 70% section. So actually that's an example where cheating of a kind really didn't help. I mean, we are expecting you to consult books and check things online because we're not trying to stop you from doing that, but we still do want you to write everything in your own words. And of course that's not just true for tests but also for your assignments. So just to remind you, we remain very good and experienced at identifying essays that have been purchased. Please do not imagine for a second that we would tolerate the submission of a bought essay even in the current circumstances. If we find evidence of students buying essays and submitting them rather than submitting their own work, that will be the end of their university career as far as we are concerned. And we do that as much for ourselves as for the 99% of students who work hard and would never dream of submitting work that isn't their own. Okay. Now, the university has announced recently that your overall grades for the current academic year will not include your weakest 30 credits. Okay, so that means if you get 70 in 6 of your modules but 40 in 2 of your modules, then your average will actually be 70. Your average wouldn't be pulled down at all by those 2 40s. It's also the case that you now only need to pass 90 credits in order to pass the foundation year, as opposed to, well, usually it's 105 credits. So usually you can fail 1 module and still pass the program. This year you can fail 2 modules and still pass the program. However, I mean, that looks like good news, and I think it's quite a generous policy from the university, but a couple of important things to note. Some of your modules are core and they must be passed regardless of however many other modules you pass or fail. So your core modules are ELSS in semester 1 and ISP in semester 2. If you fail either of these modules, you fail the year and automatically have to take resit exams at the end of August, or resit assessments. Okay. In order to progress to Queen Mary degrees, you still need to do well in your pathway subjects. So we're saying that you can fail 2 of your modules, but if you want to do management as your on your degree program and you fail the management module, then it's not going to be possible for you to progress. It's also important for me to point out that most of your pathway requirements are based on semester 2 grades. So actually the overall average mark you get at the end of the year doesn't make a huge difference as to what you need to do in order to progress to a degree at Queen Mary or not. So important to bear those things in mind. Please don't try to game the system, because typically students who try to do that tend not to do very well. I remember a really strong student a couple of years ago who took some risks with a marketing exam, thinking that he didn't need to do all of the work that he did need to do, and he ended up failing that module because of doing badly in an exam. And what he didn't realise was that, doing badly in that exam meant he failed the module and he couldn't get onto the degree program that he wanted to. And that was to another university, not to Queen Mary. The university has not yet, this is my 4th point, the university has not yet announced any changes to progression requirements for foundation students on 1-year programs. So that's all of you on the January start program, you're all on a 1-year program, and all but 8 of our September start students are on a 1-year program. Now, given the recent announcements about kind of flexibility with progression from year 1 to year 2 and year 2 to year 3 and so on, my colleagues and I have asked for a bit more clarification on what is going to happen to foundation students' progression onto degree programs. We would expect receiving schools to be quite generous and flexible with borderline cases, but we would like to get some clearer guidelines that we can share with you soon, rather so that you don't need to wait until July or August and the publication of your results before you find out what happens next. Okay, so that's something that we don't yet know, but we will try to tell you as soon as possible. The principal has given assurances to all foundation students on 4-year degrees, so there are 8 of you, either on a BSc in the School of Business Management or in the School of Economics and Finance, So 8 of you have been given assurances from the principal that you will progress to year 1 of your undergraduate studies regardless of what happens this year. Okay, my 5th and penultimate point, it does seem very likely that the recommendations of IFP staff will now become more important this year than ever. So please make sure you leave us with a positive impression. It's not quite too late to do this if you haven't already. Most of you have already. And finally, my 6th point, one thing that hasn't changed is the requirement for you to do all of your work to the best of your ability. We will be working hard behind the scenes to ensure that the current situation does not have an adverse effect on your options, but the person with most influence over your future right now is you. Those are my 6 points that I wanted to make. Next week, all IFP staff will be on leave, and I think it's important that we all switch off for a few days at least. So please bear in mind that you won't have access to teachers next week. You can't expect people to be responding to emails next week or even forums in QM+, but there will be plenty of support available in the week after that and beyond. So good luck with the last week of the semester and the assessments that lie ahead, and let's hope that we can all look forward to some decent rest and relaxation soon. Okay, take care.